Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you kindly for joining us as always. This is the Stacks working group, governance working group call number 73. It's beautiful to have you guys as always. We usually start off with some stand-ups. I can get us started as always, and I know we have a new issue to get into today. It's important for discussion, and hopefully everybody that joins us can get in today. But yeah, we've been, I think, real heads down, at least myself, in the last couple of weeks, and getting together a landing page for the advocates, and it's coming together nicely. Wanted to get something polished there, not just for the landing page, but also for, important education and documentation. And I think, found something that would be nice, nice looking in terms of, what folks are used to seeing in terms of, well-polished documentation, to go along with important landing page exposure for advocates. In addition to that, we've been, and just this morning, trying to gear up people for some of our active issues again. It's been about 3 months since our last time engaging with some of that tooling and some of the models that we tried out first there. And so this next time around will be a lot more model integrated. And so yeah, we're looking forward to seeing if we get some participation from folks, particularly in the front of SIPs and some of the work that Hero's doing. We've had some good discussion this week around some of the overlaps that are possible with engendering participation in the SIPs processes, and hopes that once things get pick up speed and some of the clan design that we have in decision-making models and advocates, that this is something that we can layer into the participation of SIPs processes as well. So this has been taking up I think a good part of our time in advocates, along with other important outward-facing exposure focuses, whether it's getting together Twitter teams or getting together events and things like this. Some beautiful work from advocates like Nat and Doc, Stacks London, and things like this that we hope to continue to build on. But yeah, in the coming weeks, you can hopefully see us coordinating further along decision-making processes and things like this. Should see some activity with engaging in important SIPs conversations and things like this as a part of what's going on in the consensus flows of advocates. And we can get into a little bit more of the details of what's going on in advocates later, but that'll be my stand-up. And yeah, we'll open the floor for anybody else. I know we may have some updates from Hero or other folks here. They're always heads down and gov processes and SIPs processes at the least. And it looks like we have some more participants. Algorithm. But yeah, I'll leave the floor open.
Cool. I'll jump in real quick because I don't have much to add. I've just been watching from the outside as the SIPs go through their process. And one update that we found out just related to CABs was, originally we were thinking as the governance CAB, we'd be reviewing all the different, almost every SIP that went through, but each SIP has a consideration track. So with that in mind, we actually didn't have to go through the last ones. They're more of the technical nature. But just wanted to flag that out there, we're always available there. And same if anybody needs any help. I know Hero's been working with the CABs and getting things set up. So if there's anything we can improve there, definitely want to know that. And other than that, we did bring in one issue that came from a discussion on Twitter that's now in our discussion items and was kind of based around the foundation and everything like that. But just continuing to let people know this is the place to go for a voice in governance. And yeah, that's about it. I don't have much for the next 2 weeks, but I'm always around if anybody needs me.
Thank you kindly, Jason. Yeah, and looking forward to catching up with you, May. But yeah, this is beautiful when it comes to what you mentioned about Hero's, SIP work. Hero, do you have any updates for us? I know you've been moving pretty fast in terms of CAB recruitment and things like this. Can't remember if you've shared that in the previous session.
Yeah, definitely. Just quick question to Jason. I was just curious as I jumped on one of your governance call yesterday in Citicoin, and the one I was curious, like who designed the whole governance thing from you? Presumably you had like a Citicoin SIP 000. So the process, the base. Did you do that?
Yeah, but I will say most of the work was done for me. You know, it's funny how many things we do in this ecosystem where you're standing on the shoulders of giants, right? So
Yeah.
the SIP process goes back in open source software, and it's similar to a lot of models. And we said, okay, we like how this SIP process works with Stacks. We need a way to track things kind of off chain and have those official discussions before we move into proposals that are executed. And it just seemed like a perfect fit. So yeah, we lifted a lot of the structure from SIP 00. We did make some minor changes to sort of simplify and a bit of layouts, but it's very, very similar in structure, and it's all just built on the excellent work that's been done here.
Yeah, that's great. No, I was thinking like surely because you might have made some improvements, and I'm just like looking to get to know the person who created it, and if it's you, then in the future, you know, there are things that we can learn from each other and make you know, the process even better. Yeah, that's all. So yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, and I'm also looking forward to, I mean, I know part of what the Clarity Innovation Lab or the Stacks Ecosystem DAO, like part of the mission there too is to expose the data around SIPs on a website in like an easier fashion and everything like that. And that's why I work towards these things too, because I know that, you know, by benefiting something on the Stacks side, then we could use it in the Citicoins ecosystem or anywhere else that follows a similar structure. So right on board.
Great. Yeah. And we are also together on that little hub anyway, so. Hello?
Yep, still here.
Okay. No, thanks a lot. Okay, cool. So from my side, so yes, I'm trying to get like all the caps done, basically. So I've already got 3 caps. There are total 5 caps right now. So I already got enough people for three caps. Actually, more than enough because there's some of them got like 4 people. The minimum 3. So some of them got 4 or 5. I'm looking to fill the last 2 caps. So we got 14 individuals already. I think the original goal was just 10 individuals. But I'm trying to have just one, just as many individuals as possible without too much like people going on 2 or 3 caps. So that's sort of the gist of it. So yeah, looking to fulfill the last 2, ethics and diversity. I actually got quite a few candidates. So I'm just speaking to them. That's all. In private, that's all. So yeah, just trying to get on with that, but also at the same time trying to create some documentations, probably in block forms to help have a bit more guide for the caps in terms of the processes and activating the caps, and ending Q&A and that side of things. So once that's more done, I think I'll be moving on to like the SIP editor side, which we already got 5 people on already. So yeah, we got and I got like a bunch of people lining up. So yeah, it's just about focusing on the caps first, and then I think hopefully probably from the foundation side and hero side, they probably want to amplify Stacks 2.0 or do some marketing, or perhaps I can help with the educational side of it. So yeah, so that's sort of the focus for the next few weeks or months. Yeah, so that's from my side, and really appreciate for the opportunity to do this SIP residency. So thanks everybody if you vouched or helped me with this.
Oh, congratulations, Hero. It's beautiful to see all this work coming about. I mean, all the details you just laid down show why we're all so excited for that residency. It's important work, the SIP work, and it really takes somebody, putting their head down and and going the extra mile in terms of coordinating folks. You know, to get 14 people is no joke, because it's a lot of, I'd imagine, you know, one-on-one reaching out in addition to just trying to reach as many people as possible.
Yeah, luckily I'm already quite close to the community side, so I know quite a lot of people and know what they're good at, and know their strengths. So yeah, I was able to get them
Beautiful.
without too much challenge, I would say. And also just to note, every week on Friday, I'm hosting SIP community call.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a regular thing now. Yeah, and yeah, so sometimes we have like really, you know, big brains get together, focusing on a specific subject matter that could turn into a SIP even, or maybe just an important critical thing to stacks. So that's also sort of ongoing. And thanks, Jason, for helping me host the last session to do with the derivation path.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with that one. You know, I think what you're doing on those calls is really great work as well, because it kind of just puts those SIFs at the forefront, gives people an easy way to know what's going on that side of things as well. So great job with that overall.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, right? Yeah. Thank you, Colin, Hero, Jason. Yeah, if there's any other updates, or you know, some things folks want to give us some insight into what they've been up to, even if it's slightly governance related, we're all ears. Otherwise, we can get into, I know what was an important issue for today, and I know a big reason why Brittany's here. Yeah.
Yeah, just a heads up, Harold. You're cutting out for me just occasionally. Like you'll be going just fine. There'll be a small blurb where I can't hear you, and then you're coming back in. Just I don't know if that's for everybody or just me, but wanted to flag that real quick.
Yeah,
Okay.
same for me.
Thank you, Colin. Yeah, I just got the internet unstable bubble as you were talking. So
Nice.
yeah, I'll try to fix that. But yeah, let's leave the floor open if there's anything extra for folks to add stand-up wise. If not, we can get into some of our first issues. And let me know if I'm coming in clearly or not.
Sounds great now. I'll let you know if it happens again.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I know this is something, you know, one of the reasons why we're here, and this will be recorded for you know, the folks mentioned in this particular thread. So maybe they can come back to it if they're not with us today. But yeah, Brittany, maybe you can give us a little summary of what was going on in this thread here.
Yeah, and I don't know if Ragnar's been able to join us. I see that there's some anonymous or like accounts, I don't know, algorithm, but if not, yeah, this was a thread that started, I think just on Twitter, kind of proposing some changes or just like some transparency measures for the foundation. And so these were all listed. And okay, I'll go with it. Just checking. Yeah, so I think it was great. Someone from the community is like looking for more input. And then I responded below in bold to each of the questions. I see, yeah, like Jason also responded. There's been some like communication, but basically kind of addressing that. We do try and be transparent. So we do have a number of these initiatives already that are clear. But I do think one of the ones that's interesting for this group was this proposal about expanding the board, having more community representation. I know we visited that like a year ago. We had some community board members who were present at board meetings and were representing. Unfortunately, I don't think that ended up in a sustainable place, largely because they're just the representative that presented like didn't prepare anything or present slides or kind of bring materials I think that were valuable to the community, and decided to decline and stop coming. So that kind of ended there. But I would, there is still a seat that's open for community representation at the board level. That's kind of like a action item that, this working group can be a great catalyst to try and fill that or find out the right way to address that if that's still of interest. yeah, so hopefully we'll get some response from the original proposer of it. And like I said, just kind of addressing some of the things that we already do. Some of the measures like, hey, we want everyone's salary that works at the foundation, or we want every person who's applying for a job at the foundation to do it in a public GitHub repo. Personally, as like the leader of the org, I'm a little concerned that might alienate like folks, or might be challenging for our just normal operations to think about taking on those. So I think they're good suggestions. I'm just not sure if there's like a better value that we could do that doesn't then try and violate any like, respect for privacy or respect for people's, maybe they don't want folks to know they're applying for a job, especially if they don't get it. So I kind of just provide comments there, but anyone is welcome to comment as well on these ideas, or which ones you think would be beneficial.
Yeah, and I'll add a tiny bit to that too. Just like after watching the Twitter discussion and like some of the questions that went back and forth all the way through the answers that you posted here, I think this was a really good coverage to each of the items brought up. It kind of exposed a little more about what might be there that was not known about, as far as like wanting more disclosure for things that already existed. And I think those points are important too. I mean, there's a level of privacy, or there's just a level of caution that we want to take around those type of things, but I don't see an issue with asking for more transparency, but finding a way that it makes sense for everybody is the best way to go. And I do think the answers here were very well in covering that. So, I'd be curious to see what does come back out of it, but appreciate you taking the time to do that as well, because there was those were things I couldn't answer from my perspective.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you, Colleen, Brittany. This is interesting too. There was a little bit of a call for discussion in a centralized place, like a Discord or a Zoom or something. There's a little bit of overlap with what's going on in advocates. Maybe some of the motivation here can even help kick up some steam in advocates as well. But yeah, this is. We've had some, we've kept that particular issue of the board seat open. I think particularly for days like this when it might become relevant again. And we update folks like Hero or other folks who come in and have an interest from these angles. And I think there's been some talks on DAO-like structures and things like this, but nothing too concrete. So it'll be nice to maybe reevaluate, what can come from the community in the way of a board seat. And I thought that was an important point to context to add, particularly if there's strong motivation from whatever angle. But there also seems to be something, in the way of distributed power that may address the particular issue even more directly. It seems there could be, structural changes to, how the residency model or how it's approached that maybe, kind of diffuses the responsibility through the community in some ways a little bit more as well. I think maybe it's kind of the idea of the transparency, but to just layer transparency on top of the same old structures can just kind of almost continue the same old dynamics, right? It's just that those dynamics are a little bit more transparent. There's more to speak about, perhaps, or more talking points. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly how that can come about. There's some efforts of this through advocates when it comes to what we've talked about in Journeys, and with the changes to the community grants program, we've kind of went back and forth in different iterations of this, but it's essentially trying to attach distributed power, review, accountability across the community, and complete with smart contract tooling to do so right inside the Discord. So maybe this can speak a little bit to addressing what could be dynamics that are just kind of inherent with structures that folks feel to hold folks accountable, they usually look to where there's concentration of responsibility. But if that responsibility is distributed, the dynamics can change quite considerably, maybe. So this is just something that popped in my head when you were speaking. And as things like this, pop up, throughout the residency. But yeah, this has been an interesting discussion, and thank you kindly, Brittany, for this well thought out answer. And hopefully we see some movement on this soon. And we'll have this recording, and I know Ragnar was in the Discord, so we'll be sure to get this part of the recording to them timestamped and all, and see if there's any feedback. But yeah, thank you, Colin.
Yeah, if I may just chime in on the community board seat. So when I joined the governance call, like probably 6 months back, I keep seeing that thing gets brought up every week, and as just a problem solver sort of nature, I try to and keep seeing it coming up, just like really bugs me, because I like things ticked off and done and stuff. So that kept coming up, and so I try to make some comment under that community board seat thing. And essentially what I said was, I kind of read the sort of the background context. It was essentially boils down to, it's got a lot of legal side to it as well. So you can't just pick any community member and just become the board seat, because there isn't really many suitable candidates, so to speak, or with sufficient that meet the legal requirement, and it's okay. So what I thought was, okay, but it's been going on for like ages. So what if we don't shoot for that in the first sort of go? Let's try and shoot for somewhere in between. We don't have to have community board seat right at the beginning, but we have some sort of community representation through either CAPS or just a panel of community leaders or ambassadors, or whatever you want to call it, that represent the community, what decision-making power they have is probably something I don't quite know yet. But what I'm trying to say is, we don't need to have a board seat right at the start, but we could have something. And if we don't have something, it's community unrepresented. Yeah, that was the gist of my post.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think that's like a great point, that we're hoping with the community board seat is that it could be, even just having an observer from the community who presents at the board meeting about what's happening in the community, what's important, what's going on, could be a real value add to the meeting. Even if there's sort of this challenge with like the fiduciary responsibilities or the liability issue, which is anyone who formally accepts a seat as a full voting board member may have. And I think what maybe gets lost is like, there aren't a lot of things that actually get voted on at the board level. The strategic decisions, there's input and usually consensus, but it's not put to a vote. So if there were a community member who was represented, they would be able to be part of those conversations, and like having a formal vote or not, I don't think would exclude them from any of the activities in the board meeting. So yeah, I do think it is. We would love to have more representation, but I do think it is like work, and it requires time and like an investment in kind of collecting information from the ecosystem and then communicating back. So, making sure that the person is the right fit for that. Because I know that there's also some prestige that comes with, saying you're on a board. And I just want to make sure that, people aren't doing it just for the title, but for like, they care about sort of the role itself.
Yeah. And do you, Brittany, so do you ideally want to see something like that, or versus perhaps a group of people who aren't really on the board, but they are a group of people perhaps a little bit similar to sort of the SIP editors or SIP CAP level, who are a little bit more official capacity of some kind in the community. That is a team that represent, collected from different corners of the ecosystem, that represent the stacks, you know, whether we have like somebody from the builder side, somebody from the marketplaces side, and somebody from the artist side, and then having user side. All this stuff makes up a community. So it's a team rather than a single person with observer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that would be feasible. I think like probably only sending like one representative from that group like to a meeting, because like it's only 3 or 4 people on the board meeting now. Would make sense, not like the whole group, but yeah, definitely. I could see that.
Okay. Maybe I'll trying to think of something.
Yeah, sounds good. Keep me posted, Hero, on whatever it is you're thinking about. It'd be good to see this get ticked off, as you said.
Yeah, I know. It's been there for so long, and I just can't stand. I just need to solve this.
Or maybe it's just close and say if there's the opportunity to reopen the proposal.
Yeah, no, but it's good that at least you're open to the idea of at least having an observer. And yeah, that's cool. Then maybe because one single like Stacks is getting quite big. It's really hard for one person to know every sort of represent the whole thing, whole Stacks community, so to speak. I think right now, maybe one year ago, it's possible, but now just like there's so many different corners of the ecosystem, and I'm seeing.
Yeah, it'd be important work. Yeah, thank you kindly, Brittany, for the time. In addition to the original response on the issue. But yeah, if there's anything else, of course, stop me from moving along. But yeah, we'll continue into whatever action items that we have. I did make some changes to DWork to reflect a new board that we put together. We didn't have access to Haas, so we had to start a new one. But this new one will be hopefully something. Let me know if you can still see my screen. But this is you know, what the landing page for advocates has started to evolve into. And a big part of it will be DWork, and having a page similar to this where folks can get updates around, you know, what's going on in the task creation aspects of advocates. Also, this is the documentation pages that I was referencing earlier, which should be pretty useful, right, in terms of a polished means of documentation for advocates, docs, and what have you. But not to get too off topic here. But yeah, DWork will be a big part of this landing page. And we've pretty much come to a conclusion that it'll be, you know, one of the points of capture for folks coming into advocates and looking for something to do, don't necessarily know what to do. It'll be a good guiding, a good guide rail for them as they come in. But yeah, I think that's also there's the newest slide deck here from Hero, showing, you know, how we see DWork folding into how we were thinking of what we were calling journeys earlier, or what is our distributed power bottom-up approach to community grants, reviewing processes, and things like this. And making
What's
for you.
the deck? Sorry, what's the deck?
This is your diagram, if I'm not mistaken, from showing the 4 different ways, if I'm not mistaken, of coming into journeys.
Oh, right, yeah.
One of those ways being D work. A big part of advocates is intrinsic motivation incentive design. And you know, we're trying to think of ways of you know, merging the extrinsic with the intrinsic, or creating a road from one to the other. And right now there wouldn't be any bounties immediately attached to D work, with this bear market context, unless there's some good work already getting done. I'd imagine things would be okay to start funding, but for now, it kind of lends itself to what we were trying to do with advocates anyway, which is ensure folks had, you know, some intrinsic motivation to get some of their work done, you know, as well. And but yeah, there's some interesting things there. See how it plugs in. And yeah, I know this is some continued work from, or just a notice from Jason, really to let folks know that we can switch up our theme that we have for our GitHub pages for this repo. You know, it's always good to let folks know that they can contribute in that way. We got some updates from Hero already when it comes to what's going on with you know, CAB recruitment and SIP processes. So I know you're likely, you know, be updating us here for that, Hero. But thank you, Connie, for the updates today in the stand-up, of course. Let us know if there's anything that we may have missed. I know there's a lot going on for you. I imagine that last, you know, SIP meeting was pretty good. But yeah, continuing on, this is some work from Juliet. I think we're just leaving it up in terms of requests for comment for a code of conduct. It's been here for a while, akin to that board seat issue. But you know, we'll leave it up and see how it evolves in terms of requests for comment. I think the most recent comment was June. And yeah, this is a little bit from our stand-up today. These are some of the issues that you guys will see in the consensus flows. We've had some embeds for them now that'll make it nice and pretty inside of Discord, as opposed to, you know, linking folks outside into paper docs. And we're just waiting for Haas, I think, to get those posted up. And in the meantime, I think we can start to post you know, our own issues into the active issues channel and get things going. And you'll see the updates here in the next coming weeks as you know, this comes about. But we're excited for it. You know, there's a lot of tooling that we're exposing folks to, other than the folks that are consistent in advocate sessions. So a lot of the issues will be, or at least one of the issues, in addition to this, which could be added, will be a standard of procedures issue. Should be a good learning intro for folks to start engaging with the tooling more often. And thank you kindly, Hero, for getting us sparked up again this week inside of active issues, knowing that it's been so long. And yeah, hopefully we can get the clans starting to organize together. But it'll be some, you know, one of the things that's nice about the clan design, which almost feels arduous at first, is it needs a lot of people to begin with. And so it almost, when folks are trying to come into consensus, because folks are distributed across clans rather than together like we are in our advocate sessions weekly, it kind of, it'll force our hand to coordinate, bring other folks that maybe aren't so active in advocates into clan designations and to go from there. So hopefully it's something that's nice in terms of engendering SIP participation and all of this in this way as well. But
yeah, I think on that point, like I sort of mentioned before, my recommendation is so that there are some sort of well-designed processes or flows or tooling, whatever you want to call it, in SACS advocates. But if they're not used enough, it's just sitting there as a sort of, you know, we're not practicing what we are saying. So, and it's only through using it, practicing it, then we will actually get real-time understanding and feedback about how to improve it. So yeah, like things staying in Notion or things staying unused in Discord, just it's not sort of how I imagine. So I just really wish, even if people are not as engaging as you probably would like, but then I think we need to figure out other ways. Otherwise, we just keep waiting and hoping for other people to use it. I think we need to adapt to the new situation and get things going. Otherwise, things just sitting there.
Yeah, yeah. Your issue this morning was good to kick us off, and I started to get some things going in the clan channels again, and we'll see. And I think we have some new folks and advocates too that have been coming into sessions at least briefly to peep in, see what's going on, and we're usually deep in the weeds of some of either outward facing stuff or even some of the governance tooling or readjusting how we're approaching journeys. So I think we could use some, some exposure that is a little bit more outward facing for these folks. And I think that can happen just in coordinating in those channels, and it can happen pretty organically with some of the folks that have come in recently. And yeah, so we'll see what happens. I started to kick some stuff off this morning. So yeah, and I think it's it'll be a little bit more flow this time around with the roles included. I know the first time around it was a lot more manual. So once it gets kicked off this time around, hopefully things flow nicely. But yeah, thank you kindly, Hiro, for your dedication on that front, because not unlike the SIPS process, right? I think on the surface, folks are a little turned off by governance, so. But I think we have something unique with advocates that they can have some stickiness once folks are exposed to it. I think the landing page and documentation there will help folks along as well, as opposed to it being scattered all over, like you're saying, whether it's Notion or Discord or the forum or what have you. But hey, thank you kindly, Brittany. But yeah, if there's any other questions here, and Jason, I know you said reach out to you. This will probably be one of the ways to reach out, especially if we get things going. It'll be some flows for you to plug into if you're still with us.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be awesome. I'm definitely want to see like where I can help and where I can help push things along. I know like time is a fluctuating factor and definitely the thing to figure out, but let's hash it out and see what can be done. I'm excited just to see it all happening. So fun.
Yeah, it is. And even, the different iterations of journeys and things like this have been nice to pass back and forth, and to kind of adapt to what's going on, whether it's foundation or the market or what have you. It's got another internet unstable. But yeah, we'll move on to discussion. Let me see. Okay, I guess we already discussed this earlier, but I guess I can add a mention of the landing page in here. I know this is a big part of this pivot. I'm starting to really get excited about how the landing page is rounding off. Wasn't expecting to be able to do so much with GitHub themes. But with some of that documentation stuff possible there, I think it will, lend itself nicely to some education pages, and will essentially be onboarding flows for folks all in a centralized place. So yeah, I'm excited for the centralized role of the landing page and as it relates to the scaling out of advocates. So yeah, we had one version theme that I pretty much threw away. I couldn't stand the look of anymore, and I think this one I'm much happier with. Hopefully, you guys are too, and can add to it. In critical ways, and it's all on GitHub, and like that adding to it shouldn't be so hard. Even if it's not just all me doing it, I can show folks how to, make pull requests and merge and things like this. It can be fairly nice. But yeah, you had something, Hiro?
It looks really good, eh?
Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, I was stumping on the finally have make the theme work for some time, but I'm happy about it now. Yeah, we have community funding streams. I don't know why I thought it was a similar one. I think that was closed. We may let me see. I believe this is Philip, and I may close this until we can get a hold of Philip. There's even been some changes in what I think we were going to discuss with Philip when it comes to journeys and things like this. So yeah, this will I'll probably close this whenever I can. Let me see. And yeah, so I know this is just cleanup from Jason, backlog stuff almost. And this is some work that folks aren't aware. Some work that we're still, want to get done as almost supplemental to what we're trying to do in the GovLab and advocates. Focus a lot on data management as it relates to digital fabrication and STEAM. I've recently made contact with folks that, a designer and engineer are pretty prolific in the space, and we'll have some updates here on any coming news or projects that we have in mind. We really just had intro meetings up until this point. But yeah, I think Fireside Chat will come into the picture a lot more seriously as we focus on outward facing things in advocates. A part of the Twitter team will be folks that are, I think, fairly adept at Twitter Spaces coordination, and I think there's a lot of room for firesides with kernel folks and things like this that can keep us busy, advocates exposure wise, which will be important to have running alongside of some of these consensus flows getting sparked up. So I would look out. I would keep this open as well, just for this. Yeah, I don't know why I don't remember this. I feel like it popped up again out of nowhere.
Yeah, and I just add some quick context to it. So like, one of the ideas we ran into initially when we were trying to do this whole governance thing was, how do we share a Stacks account? And the idea would be like, let's say block survey. We want to run block surveys for the governance working group. Great. Well, whose keys is it tied to? What happens if that changes hands? What happens if we lose access to it? So around using certain Stacks applications, I was very curious how to approach this problem. And it would be interesting to look at again, because now with things like multi-sig coming out, there is the possibility that you could have a contract that represents multiple addresses, or we've learned a lot, but I don't know if there's ever been a clear answer to this, because typically in the crypto world, it's like, your keys, your assets, it's a sole holder, versus it being like a shared or collaborative key or anything like that too. So the tooling didn't exist, but we wanted to keep the thinking in mind, because if we did want to use more Stacks apps as the governance working group, there's some open questions into how we would do that.
Yeah. Thank you kindly, Jason. Yeah, this is something that comes up all the time organically, right? When you're getting together teams of anything, it's supposed to be attached to these centralized systems, like advocates and a Twitter team and things like this, right? But that's more for, Web 2, stuff. For Web 3 stuff, we should definitely, have some things in mind, or some approaches in mind. So yeah, thank you kindly for, I guess, bringing this back up and getting the conversation started again. But yeah, I don't know if there's any ideas from folks immediately, particularly you know, I think that there's some things with block survey that are kind of nice already for myself and Haas. I think can have a GovLab team for that. So I think that's kind of nice. Maybe it's because block survey has integrated it into their product a little bit more than others. So maybe this is one of the things to look out for, or to try to achieve in other tools that we're using. But yeah, thank you kindly, Jason.
Yeah, no problem.
And we have languages and translations here, which is of course important. This is I think something we're contemplating including in DWork, and then got a little intimidated around exactly how how complicated it can be to have a reviewer and to have multiple reviewers or what have you. So yeah, I don't know if you had any comment on this, Jason.
It's just a big subject in general, and I know there's kind of like two ways to look at it. Like the main reason that we've kept this open and that we continue to keep it in our discussions and everything else is we want to keep it top of mind. We reach an international audience, and the better ways that we reach those audiences in native languages is extremely helpful. And we've seen other projects too, where like while English is kind of a common ground for a lot of what we're doing, understanding especially nuances of larger projects or things that are explained in more detail, or depending on the wording, having those local versions is really nice. And I think related to the DWork side of it, it's like, how do you break that down into tasks that people can complete, right? Like, is it just translate this document, or is it make notes in your language for this video? And then the other challenge to that is not only creating that content, but then checking that content, because then you've got things in another language. We want to make sure they say the right thing. And so something like Crowdin is very useful for that type of task, or if it fit into like an advocate type thing where it's like, hey, I translated this and I'm getting something for my time. We didn't know exactly how it would fit into the picture, but it was just something that we always wanted to keep in mind, because the more we can make these accessible, the more we're serving the community.
Yeah, this is something that we found when thinking about including it in DWork. And I think in DWork we wanted to, Jenny mentioned having some concrete tasks presented for folks, and I think Haas had some reservations around some of the flows and some of that Crowdin work. But yeah, we should, I see my internet's unstable. We should figure a way of maybe collaborating with Sleepy and thinking about this that much more seriously. I know there's a couple of advocates too that could probably use some connection and application throughout the ecosystem. So this could be a way of doing some due diligence in the way of translations. And yeah, it never feels right to even think about closing that because of how important it is.
I mean, why don't you guys just have the DWork thing as whatever you feel comfortable having bounties on, have it there, like created by the admins, so to speak. But then you also ask people, like, if they want to do translation intrinsically, they can go on there and post and propose a task with their proposed amount. So I guess the difference to the grants program would be DWork is more like task-based proposal rather than a grants application app creation proposal. So it's sort of on a smaller level, smaller scale, task-based, maybe, if that helps to get people going.
Yeah, this is somewhere along the lines of Jenny's recommendation. And yeah, even if they are slightly bigger than the smaller ones, it's something that we can something that we can do in the D work for now, not having any bounties attached to them right away. But yeah, for sure. And we should have some community engagement with filling out the list as well. I really wanted to have this, connection to the board and the landing page in place. Before asking for the community input, that should be done later today, hopefully. But yeah, this will be, I think, key to I mean, like I said earlier, it lends itself to what we were worried about with, having D work too much in the foreground of advocates. In terms of, if it had money attached to it already, it can pull us a little bit away from or into choppy waters in terms of incentive design. But it's almost it's silver lining or a good thing for us that we don't necessarily have any direct support for D work bounties at this point, because it will have to be intrinsically motivated, whether it's translation work or anything else. So yeah, this will. I peeped a few advocates recently again that may have some value to add for translations. So yeah, this will be something that maybe pops up with D work stuff. But yeah. And we can leave the floor open in general now. If there's anything lingering on folks' minds, it's always beautiful to catch up with you guys. So yeah, let me know if there's anything.
That's it on my end. Great to see everybody, and thanks again for walking us through it all, Harold. Appreciate you.
Well, thank you, Jason. As always, beautiful to have you. I'm glad we got that issue addressed with Brittany and folks. Algorithms, good to see you, man. I know sometimes your audio or connection isn't so good, but it's always beautiful to have you. Thank you kindly for all your help in welcoming team efforts and staying involved in advocates, despite the time zone differences. I think it's mandatory now we switch up our community call for folks like yourself. So yeah, I'll probably be in touch in the service some way, and we'll design a meeting around your time zone. Even if it's just us two, we gotta have you more often, your voice. But yeah, it's beautiful to have you guys. I'll see you guys soon.